Perfect.
Brilliant. Thank
Brilliant.
you. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
great.
So the session is recorded. Feel free to skip parts or go back and revisit some parts if you wish at the end of the session. You should be able to comment if you like. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them at the very end. During the session, we've included raise your hand or use the chat functions. I'd prefer if you could just ask the questions in the chat so that I could answer them at the end as we have some time for Q&A. And I believe you could turn on captions as well on the three dots in the middle of the screen. So let's get cracking with who we are and what we do then. ICAEW stands for the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. We have over 153,000 members working all across the world. So these are members who have completed their qualifications to become a chartered accountant. And we currently have over 28,000 students training towards this qualification. It's called the ACA, the Associate Chartered Accountancy Qualification, and it's what you need to be chartered. So we are a truly global membership body in that sense, and we can see it here on this slide as well. So if you would like to train towards the ACA, there are over 20 different countries where you could train towards the ACA, become a professional and chartered. And within this list, there's also the UK, obviously. So if you have that interest in working abroad or have a second language or maybe some family abroad, you may wish to work in any of these countries here. We also have international offices as well. So there's 12 of them in total, and 2 of them are in the UK, 1 in London, 1 in Milton Keynes. The Milton Keynes office is where I'm based. So my role is marketing executive. I'm here to promote and raise awareness of a career in chartered accountancy, whereas our main office is in London. However, our offices are there to support and guide you both as a student and also as a member. So if you do have any ethical dilemmas, let's say 10 years down your career, you may wish to get in touch with one of our offices for support. Just quickly, what are employability skills? So the textbook definition, if you like, is a set of skills, knowledge and personal attributes that make you more likely to be successful in your chosen career. So employers often ask themselves these 3 questions. Can you do the job? Will you do the job? And will you fit into the company, the team or the company or the culture, if you like? So before applying anywhere or doing some sort of research, it's always good to ask yourself these 3 questions just to save you some time before applying to lots of different firms or companies, just to make sure that you're also interested and you also feel like you'll fit into that company. Now, the top 6 skills that employers tend to look for if you are interested in pursuing a career in accountancy, finance and business. Chartered accountants have these top six skills. So these are listed here on this slide. And if you feel like you're not quite there yet with some of them, or you feel like you need to do some improvements, I could talk a little bit about the ICAEW student scheme. So this is a scheme that's an online employability toolkit, and it's designed to help you improve your employability. Within the ICAEW student scheme, there are courses and certificates, skills development and job hunting. So if you feel like IT skills is something you need to improve or work on, it is one of the top 6 skills employers look for. So by taking part in this ICAEW student scheme, you could excel in Excel, if you like, and also do 0 cloud accounting courses, for instance. So there are some IT skills you could develop. You can also enhance your skills with the hints and tips we give, as well as get exclusive job opportunity alerts to help you in your job hunting. Skills development and job hunting. This is a part of the package where you get some information about these different elements, which I'll be going into more detail shortly. And there's also the opportunity for you to train and complete our CFAB qualification. So that's the first 6 modules of the ACA qualification. There are 15 in total. You may be eligible for some exemptions, so you may wish to check that. However, it is included in the package if you'd like to complete it. As I mentioned, there is Excel online training, so you would start off with doing a mini test just to check what level you're at. And according to your level, you'll be given different tasks to complete the Excel course, and you'll gain a certificate at the end of it to add to your CV for evidence. As I mentioned, you could also do the zero certification course. So you could basically puts you in the role of an accountant at a X company, and you get that experience to do accountancy, but on the cloud online, if you like. Especially in this day and age, it would be very helpful. So what are the benefits? Here are some reasons as to why you may wish to join the student scheme. You can enhance your CV, and it's a great stepping stone into your career. If I could just quickly ask you to take a screenshot or a note of this code, that would be brilliant. I know you could go back to this recorded session and take a look at it later on, but just to help you out, it might be useful to take a note down of this code. Fran also has this code. So if you can't find your screenshot or your note, we're happy to let you know. And this is basically a code to give you that access. The package, the scheme, is £20 at the moment, and it's a one-off payment, so you could benefit from everything I just spoke about for just £20, and you could benefit from the student scheme until the year you graduate and the year after. So even if you're in your final year now, you could also benefit from it next year as well after you graduated. So moving on to the employability skills session, I've spoken a little bit about what employability skills is. And like I said, if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box and I'll be able to get back to it at the end of the session because I simply can't see at the moment. I can't see the chat box settings section, sorry. So at the end of the session, I'll be able to help you out. Now, we'll be talking through the whole recruitment process. So aptitude tests, CV writing, phone and video interviews, and mock assessment centres, or the real assessment centres, if you like. The very first step that employers tend to ask candidates to complete in a recruitment process are online aptitude tests. And these can consist of situational judgment, numeric or verbal reasoning tests. And there are some free resources that our employers would suggest graduates to use. So here are some websites which are all free for you to test out. And it's good practice to help you with your aptitude tests. So, Fran, just quickly, were you able to share that document?
All right, sorry.
No worries, that's perfectly fine. In the meantime, I'll just quickly show you the University Student Scheme website, which you should all be able to see here. So ICAEW.com/student scheme, and you'll be able to join online now. Here it explains some of the benefits, as I mentioned, and also what's included in a little bit more detail.
Just get into it, Akin.
No worries, that's perfectly fine.
Talk amongst yourselves. Yeah. Has anybody got any questions for Akin? As I'm just looking for this, I can just see the chat box as well. So the student scheme, Akin, it's just literally going on that link.
Yes, so if you visit the website, and you'll be able to sign up on the website. So I believe you just need to enter some of your educational details to give us understanding as to what you expect from the scheme and how we could help support you. And then once you're signed up, like I said, it's only £20 at the moment. So it's a small investment, about to take a big step in your employability skills.
Sounds
And
like
yeah, you can benefit from it until the year you graduate, sorry, a year after you graduate. So it's plenty of time to benefit from all the tools within this package. And like I said, if you do have any, spots or opportunities to develop your skills, for instance, IT skills, then it's great. It's a great package.
it's a really good way to get, I mean, things like employers always look for things like advanced Excel skills, don't they?
Definitely. And like I said, it also has that zero cloud accounting. Normally that package by itself, I believe, is around £100. I can't remember exactly the figure, but within this university student scheme, it's free as long as you've got the package for £20. So it's a great investment for your employability.
Sorry, Akin, I'm struggling to get on the sort of OneDrive here. So
no worries.
I'll give it one more go. So students, do you like the idea of the student scheme? Do you think that might be quite good? To pay a minimal amount, only 20 quid, and then get access to some training that would be is of a much higher value in terms of the cloud accounting and advanced Excel.
Mm.
Right. Just see if it's comes through.
If you like, I could talk through the activities, and then if we have some time towards the end, we could go through the activities and revisit it.
Yep, you do that, Akin. I'm just trying to.
No worries.
Just really slow.
So Fran is at the moment trying to find the workbook, which will definitely help you guys out in terms of when it comes to applying for jobs. So in the workbook, we have different activities and some different important fact sheets, if you like. So activity 1 would be the session where you do the activity where you do a skills audit and have an understanding of identifying the skills that you need to improve on and what your current strengths are. So on the left-hand side, if you remember the slides just earlier, I gave you the top 6 skills that employers look for. And in this workbook, we've highlighted all the 6 skills on the left-hand side with different competencies in the middle. So here, for instance, we have people skills, we have networking, customer service, and building relationships, which fall under people skills. Here, you would need to tick only one of these options, okay? So whether it's study, work, or extracurricular. And then you would give one example of where you've demonstrated this skill. So in this example, for people skills and networking, I've chosen study, and my example of where I've demonstrated networking in a study environment was that I attended an ICAEW skills session and spoke with a representative who gave me advice about how to enhance my employability skills. So in terms of a graduate point of view, if you are applying for a job or looking to enhance your CV at the moment, you may wish to give the example of networking, study, similar example, but maybe where it says skills session, you might want to give a bit more detail and say it was over Teams, and the representative gave me this and this advice. So just tailor that information in a bit more detail, relevant for what that employer is looking for. The next part will, again, same thing, customer service. This one you might want to give work as an example. You may have worked at a fast food chain, for instance, in a high-speed environment, fast-paced environment. And you might wish to give that example of how you've demonstrated customer service. You'll then move on to building relationships and then carry on with the other skills. So that gives you a good understanding of the self-audit skills activity is like. And once you've completed that for all 6 of the skills, you should be able to have a look at this slide where you can rank these different skills as to how confident you feel you are at demonstrating them. So for instance, I've got an example here. You'll be ranking them in 1 to 6. and you could only rank one competency with one number. So you can't repeat two different numbers, if that makes sense. So here we have decision making, which is number 1. That's the one I feel the most strongest at. Okay, I believe it says at the top of the workbook as well. So rank these 1 to 6, 1 being the strongest, the most confident you feel, and 6 being the least. Once you've ranked it on the right-hand side, you'll be able to plot it onto the spider diagram on the left-hand side, as shown in this example, and it'll give you a visual idea as to where you need to improve. So number 6 isn't actually a bad number. It doesn't mean that you're the worst at it, or it's your least best strength, if you like. It just means it's the most opportunity for you to develop. Activity 1 should take roughly around 10-15 minutes. However, obviously the workbook will be yours, so you can take it away and fill it in your own time.
Akin, what I'll do is I'll send it to the students. I've got a list of participants I've downloaded,
okay,
so I can send a link after the after you've signed off.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, no worries at all. That's perfectly fine. Thank you. So if anyone does have any if anyone does have any questions about these activities at the end of the session, feel free to get in touch with Fran or myself, and or revisit this recorded webinar. So let's move on to CV writing. You have a good understanding as to self-audit. You know where your strengths lie and where the opportunities are to develop. CV writing is very important because there's often a structure. And if you don't have this structure in place, your CV might look out of place, it might be too lengthy, and it's important to follow these different sections. So here on this slide, you can see that personal profile, for instance, is a optional. Additional languages and visa status is if applicable, and then references again are optional. So to save space, these optional ones, you don't have to include them. However, if you feel like you're lacking in different areas, different sections, and you would like to add some personality to your CV, you may wish to include the personal profile or your references, for instance, and if applicable, additional languages and visa status. The sections are giving you a great idea as to how to make your CV. So ideally 1 page or 2 maximum. And you could use this guidance to help you in filling those sections. Hobbies and interests is an interesting one, actually, because often it is important to make sure that these are relevant or demonstrate something that's interesting about you. So often people don't think travel, for instance, is something that's relevant on a CV. However, if you can relate it to the job, it may be something you may wish to include, which I'll move on to shortly, actually. This is a very interesting slide. So here you'll see writing a CV for different markets. So if you are interested in working abroad one day, different markets have different requirements when it comes to CVs. Some interesting ones to point out is that the UK, a photo isn't compulsory. However, in Europe, well, most of Europe, it is compulsory to have a picture, basically of your face, on your CV, which for some people in the UK may sound strange. However, in Europe, it is often required and requested less in Cyprus and Greece. Hobbies and interests is compulsory in the UK and Europe. However, it's an option in the other markets. And then again, it's interesting to see that the language is spoken is optional here in the UK and Europe, whereas it's compulsory in the other markets. So even if you're not interested in working abroad at the moment, it may be worth something to keep in mind for a later date. Going back to identifying and describing your achievements, I mentioned a little bit about traveling. So you can always talk about traveling and what you did and what you learned, because that is an experience and that can count as an achievement, I suppose, because it's not something that everyone can do. So if you've had that experience, that may be something you may wish to include. Work experience is, of course, something you should really be including when it comes to achievements, because saying that you've worked at a, let's say, fast food chain for 2 years doesn't give that much information. However, if you mention that you've contributed to X amount of sales during your shifts, or it may be a society or position. So if you are a leader of a society, like a chair, for instance, then you may wish to talk about what you did. So how you've attracted different sponsors, different companies to sponsor your society. That may be one example, and give some information as to numbers and figures, something that's concrete in terms of saying, yes, this is what I did, and this is how successful the society became during my time there. So that may be something you may wish to consider as well. Within the workbook that Fran will be sending at the end of the session, you'll see various different pieces of information to help you demonstrate these achievements, list these on your CV, which will be very helpful as well. So activities, we don't really have much time to do these at the moment. However, this activity is mostly about seeing where you can improve on your CV in contrast to what employers are looking for. So let me just quickly take you through what ideally you should be doing in this activity. So you would be visiting this website, ICAEW This is our jobs board, if you like. So it's a very good starting place for you to explore jobs and find graduate job opportunities. And this activity basically asks you to find a job posted on this website and then compare it with your own CV or the example CV within your workbook. So just to help you visually see what I mean, I'll just quickly, perfect. So we've visited ICAEWvacancies.com, and this is the homepage. So instantly you'll see different jobs of the week. You can sign up to direct job alerts to notify you of job opportunities that pops up, some featured job opportunities, and a little bit about ICAEW training vacancies. So for the purpose of this activity, let's click on graduate jobs. And then we'll see a variety of different job opportunities on this website. So let's just pick one as an example. Let's see this one at this law firm. Oh, it's an accountancy firm, sorry, but it's published about 2 hours ago, so it's very new, okay? And it talks a little bit about what you can expect from the firm, what we would like from you, what other details they could provide, and also what benefits are included. So for the purpose of this activity, you would find a job post just like this one. You would have a look at what they would like from you, so this section here, and you would circle, underline, highlight anything on your CV that matches what they would like from you, just to see if you're a good match for this post and to save you time from applying to lots of different jobs with the same CV. So often you may meet these criteria, but it might not be listed on your CV. So tailor your CV for each job post with what they would like from you. That is a really good activity to start practicing and getting in the habit of tailoring your CV for relevant, for different jobs. Here we can see very good verbal communication skills. So communication is one of the skills employers do look for. Here it's broken down into written and verbal. Willingness to learn and grow within a commercial environment. So this talks a little bit about commercial awareness. Again, that is another skill employers look for. And so like a can-do attitude with a smart and professional appearance. So obviously not appearance in terms of your photo on the CV, which isn't required in the UK, but appearance as in how you present yourself. So be looking smart and acting professionalism, which is another quality employers look for. So that was the purpose of this activity, which you could do, like I said, in your own time. This is another website that Fran recommended. that students could also take a look at. There are ACA job opportunities on here, so I've typed it in previously. If you just visit this website, ICAEW, type in ACA, and you'll see different jobs here as well to train towards the ACA qualification. If you do have any questions, like I said, please pop in the chat box, and I'm happy to answer them at the end. So we've spoken a little bit about CVs. You've got it ready, and now you're on an application form on the page of a recruiter's website. So application forms, I'm not sure if anyone tried to fill them in before, but they can take an awful lot of time. So it's important to research, highlight relevant achievements, draft your answers. So like I said, it takes a long time to complete these application forms, and it feels like you're repeating yourself quite often. So draft them in Microsoft Word or in your notes, just so that when it comes to another application form, you have the similar answers, and you could just change the text slightly to meet the question that's being asked. Quality over quantity. So don't spend, don't just spend lots of time applying for loads of different jobs and applying to loads of different application forms. Try to keep it quality, do your research, and if you feel like it's a right job opportunity for you, then feel free to apply. So phone and video interviews are the next stage. You've done your CV, you've uploaded it on the application form, and if you are successful, employers will often ask you to come back for a phone or a video interview. Now, video and phone interviews are quite popular amongst employers. So as you can see here, 54% of employers use phone, 53% of them use video. And especially nowadays, these video interviews are highly likely to boost. And as you can see, since 2016, there's been an 11% increase in video interviews. And especially with the current climate we're in now, that should be increasing even more. So being prepared for video interviews is something that I would highly recommend. And one way to do them, to be prepared, is to follow these different steps. Now, you could practice video interviews or phone interviews by trying to film yourself. Now, that sounds really weird with the bullet point there, talking to yourself. However, if you just open the camera app on your phone or on your laptop and just click record and ask yourself a couple of questions and answer those, that'll give you some sort of a confidence as to see what it's like to talk to a camera, which is what I'm doing right now. I can't see any of you guys. I can't even see the chat screen on Teams. I just see what you guys are seeing there. So I've done a bit of practice myself, to be honest. However, it's something to keep in mind. Technology, so check the volume of the sound, and here we've got a Skype example, but it could be Teams, it could be Zoom. Make sure your name is appropriate. Location, have a neutral background and good lighting. So Fran's background, I believe, was a wallpaper type background. So if your background has lots of different posters and you don't want to put them down, you may wish to use like a virtual background if you like. That might be something you may wish to do. But it's always best to just keep it as a plain, simple, I mean, it depends on your wallpaper color, but white background. Position your webcam with eye level. So don't be looking at your computer screen with your camera on your right-hand side, just seeing half of your face. Try to keep it consistent and eye level. That will really help because it'll make you feel like you're talking to someone real and in front of you. And interesting one here is don't speak over your interviewer in the interview section. That's something you may wish to check with your internet connection beforehand with a friend or family member, just to make sure there's no lag, so that when they're talking, you don't talk over them, just so that's not rude really, even if you don't mean it. And my favorite one is the you section, where it says set aside enough time so that you are not rushed. So I heard an employer actually was doing an interview, and the student had forgotten to take their pizza out of the oven. So the fire alarm actually went off in their accommodation. It's actually funny looking at it now, but I'm sure for the student it was a horrible nightmare. So yeah, if you have any interviews coming up, just make sure you set enough time for yourself so that you're not rushed.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed, by this point you should be successful in the phone or video interview, and you'll be looking to do what's called an assessment centre. Now, you may or may not have heard of an assessment centre before. It's not a real physical location. It's basically an opportunity for you to demonstrate a variety of different skills. So it could be team working in a different group with other successful candidates up until that stage. It could be a face-to-face interview, so literally face-to-face or over like a Skype, Zoom, team call, that kind of face-to-face interview. And it could also be like a solo presentation, so you might be assigned a case study for you to complete in a certain given time. And at the end of it, you'll have to present back your findings and your recommendations. So assessment centres are a variety of different tasks and activities for you to carry out. And now that is almost, nearly 100% certain you'll come across an assessment centre in this profession. And there is an increase since 2016 as well. So you're more than likely to come across an assessment centre going forward. Here are some tips to help you with an assessment centre. One of the interesting ones here is actually listen carefully. So although you're competing for maybe two, the employer might be giving the opportunity for two different jobs, for two spaces, sorry. But although you're competing with 20 different people in this assessment centre, listen carefully. Although you might wish to have the last say or the final word, or try to express your opinions, as much as you want to talk and give your opinion, it's always good to listen to others as well carefully and try to get them on board as well. So if there's anyone who's not sharing their opinions or who's a bit quiet, just try to encourage them to share their opinions, and that way it will show that you're a good team player. Hopefully that comes natural to you at the moment during your teamwork that you've done at university, or even in your social life, and just try to get other people on board as well. Network, so talk with other candidates throughout the day. So you might wish to ask them what attracted you to the job, why did you apply, what do you study at uni, etc. That'll help you ease your nerves, and also they may have done some research which you may not have found in your research. So when it comes to like a face-to-face interview, you could always be a bit cheeky in that sense, share different information you found out from other people in the room to help you with your research. Be confident. That's probably easier said than done for most people. Being confident and doing all of these activities in an assessment centre can be daunting, can be difficult for some people. However, if you do follow the hints and tips in the previous slides, or if you do reach out to your career service and try to do practice assessment centres, etc., that confidence will build up naturally, and in the real thing, you'll already have that confidence to help you out. Now, this is a stage that mostly all candidates would like to be at, because it's basically the last couple of candidates left in the recruitment process. So if you are successful, the very last part of the recruitment process is often a face-to-face interview. So I talked a little bit about this earlier. It could be real life face-to-face or over virtual face-to-face interviews. And some hints and tips here to help you be a bit more confident and be ready for these are on the slide here. This handshake one, which we'll probably have to take out of our slides nowadays, so ignore that one for the time being. However, be inquisitive. That's really important, because if you've done some research, you should come up with questions. You're not the only one being asked questions on a face-to-face interview. You also have the opportunity given to ask questions yourself. So you may have done some research and you might wish to ask some questions as to work-life balance, or you might have heard something in the news and you found it particularly interesting, so you might wish to find out more information and ask them questions about it. It might be about the next steps of the recruitment process, when will you get in touch, that kind of thing. Or maybe just ask the interviewer, what's your favorite part about the job, or how many years have you worked here? What do you like most? That kind of thing. And it just shows that you're interested in working at that firm. So activity 3, this is something that you could do if, well, it depends where you are at the moment with your family, or if you're in accommodation at the moment, then the people you're living with. You would partner with somebody, and you'll decide on who's interviewing and who's being the interviewee. Okay, so you'll be pretending you're in a position where you've applied for a job, you're very successful all the way to the end, and you're in this final interview. The person who's applied for the job would make 3 statements about themselves. That could be anything about travel, work, study, and 2 of these need to be true, 1 of them needs to be false. The reason for this is not to encourage you to lie, of course, but it's to show how easy it is for you to get caught out lying in a mock interview, or in a real interview, sorry. So try to stay away from that. I mean, I heard a student put down A-star A-levels for French when they applied for a job. And when it came to the very final interview, the person interviewing was French and said, "Hi, how are you?" in French. And the interviewee had no idea what the lady was saying. So you don't want to lie. And if you have an A-star in French, you should know these basics. And it's obvious that you are lying. So don't get caught out. The interviewer will ask you a couple of questions. These are listed in your workbook, which will help you out. And the purpose of this is to find out which one is a false statement. And then you could repeat this and try again. And hopefully you have a good idea as to how easy it is to get caught lying, and how you really should avoid it. So what to do next then? You should research the firm you're applying for. Like I said at the very start, can you do the job? Will you do the job? And will you fit into the company culture? Ask yourself these 3 questions and then go from there. Attract an employer. So if you haven't got a CV at the moment, or if you're currently working on it, or maybe you're looking to start working on it again, have a look back at these hints and tips I provided. And you should hopefully be able to structure it in a way that's going to look attractive to employers. There's tons of different resources. I know currently it's a bit challenging to find opportunities. However, within this sector, within this field, if you like, there are many different opportunities for you to do virtual experiences. So if you visit ICAEW careers, you can sign up to our newsletters, and you can hear about the work that we're working on. So once virtual internships are launched, you'll be the first to hear about it, and you can get that under your belt on your CV to attract employers. Have a look at the entry requirements. So use that activity 2 activity to help you have a look at what employers are expecting from you. So not just the skills, but also the requirements. Most often employers tend to look for 2, 1 or above in any degree, but I think the example I showed you guys was a 2-2, if I remember correctly. So it's more about the skills than the grades, if you like, in this profession. And how can you get a head start? Well, I've spoken a little bit about the ICAEW student scheme. Remember to use that code that was on the screen to sign up. And there's tons of different resources that you can benefit from to help you improve your employability and make you stand out from the hundreds and thousands of accountancy students across the UK. So that's definitely going to make you stand out. So why are we right for you then, in terms of ICAEW, in contrast to different professional bodies? Well, I mentioned that we are a community of a global network, so we have members all across the world. And we have a big student pool as well. So once you are a student, according to your home postcode, so once you're an ACA student, sorry, according to your home postcode, you'll be given a society, if you like. So you could also get in touch with other people similar to your experiences and your age to help you share different experiences. 90% of all of the ACA students qualify in 4 years or less. So this way you have fewer resets and you can start your career nice and early. This is a really interesting one. So the FTSE 100 companies, 83% of these companies have an ICAEW chartered accountant on their board, executive board. And 1 in 4 of these organizations, so nearly 25%, have an ICAEW chartered accountant as their CEO. So just goes to show how you go into more senior jobs with this qualification. And this obviously means that you go into an industry, all sorts of different industries. So we have chartered accountants working in sports, media, fashion, just to name a few. You might wish to work for a charity or a not-for-profit organization. So it might be the NHS or a university. That might be something where you're interested in and might wish to take the ACA with you. And our first-time pass rates are 80%. Now, I get asked quite a lot, is it easy to complete the ACA? Because basically everyone passes first time, 80% of students. However, that's because of the high quality learning and teaching and support that's provided to you. So ultimately, it is your responsibility to use these resources and opportunities, and you can pass first time. However, it is very difficult, and I'm not trying to make it glamorous or make it look easy at all, just so you know what to expect. We have some social channels here. One interesting one that you may wish to check out is our YouTube channel on the top right, ICAEW Careers. On there, if you just type in ICAEW Careers, you'll see various different videos of what we call ICAEW Vlog Stars, and they're current ACA students who are working, having just recently graduated in a workplace, and they're showing their experiences as what it's like to work and train towards the ACA at the same time. So that's really good to find out a little bit more information from some of our students. So if you like, I could just, because I can't see this chat box at the moment, I'll just quickly go back to the chat settings here. Perfect, and then I'll stop recording.
Yep, brilliant. I've been responding, Akin. Thank you very much for that. It's brilliant whistle-stop tour of employability skills and.
Perfect. No worries at all.
So I've been obviously, sorry, I've been typing while you've been kind of chatting, just mentioning certain things that.
That's brilliant.
Things like we've got an interview simulator and a CV tracking system that a lot of employers use, which is a really useful tool for students to be aware of in terms of, often if you a recruiter will, certainly using a recruitment agency, as you said, if there's a lot of applicants, it's easy, isn't it, to feed your CV, for example, through a machine, and the machine says, there's mistakes, there's grammatical errors, there's formatting errors, and you go on the kind of no pile. So we've got that option there on MyHub. Students can find the interview simulator and CV 360 as well. And in terms of assessment centres, we are running virtual assessment centres now, some practice ones. So the next one, Aaron's kindly shared with me. It's on the 16th of July. So thanks for that, Aaron. Yeah, so that's brilliant. So has anybody got any other questions for Akin on employability skills and applications? One thing, Akin, I noticed was on the CV that you showed, there wasn't a LinkedIn URL. I mean, in terms of LinkedIn, we always say to students it's really important to have a good profile because employers are looking for people to approach as well as them kind of advertising in effect their CV online, isn't it? But what do you think about using LinkedIn, Akin?
No, 100%. It should. I mean, as far as I remember, it was on there, unless I used it, because that was the only thing we added to the CV recently. So maybe I opened the older CV, but
I could be wrong.
No, that's perfect. I mean, that's perfectly fine. We should have the LinkedIn on there. Quite rightly, LinkedIn basically brings your CV alive, and you can include more information and support it with documents as well. So if you do have a certificate, you could showcase it on your LinkedIn. You could also have recommendations on your LinkedIn as well from people who you've worked with in the past or you're currently working with. So, you know, you could also tailor that information and put it in onto LinkedIn as well. One thing I would suggest, however, is when you do put a URL onto your CV, on LinkedIn, you have the option of customizing that URL. So instead of just putting, you know, www.linkedin.com/your name, /XYZ241, etc., customize it so that it's /your name and surname, make it look professional, and when it's on your CV, make sure that it's hyperlinked as well. So rather than the recruiter manually copy and pasting it into their search browser, if it's already hyperlinked, then you just quickly click on it and then access your LinkedIn through that way as well.
Because it was interesting about photos, isn't it? Some students not, you know, in terms of putting why would you need to put a photo on your CV? Because all they're going to do is click through to your LinkedIn profile and look for you there anyway.
Well, I mean, yeah. So traditionally in the UK, we don't need pictures on the CV. However, in Europe, for instance, you do, or different markets. And now LinkedIn is not for recruiters to see what you look like, but it's more about, like I said, to bring that CV alive and, you know, more about those recommendations, the attachments you may have on LinkedIn to showcase the work you've been doing. So just one little example, you might have done a work experience, let's say for 1 year during your placement, or it might be a summer internship, for instance. Just quickly put together a few PowerPoint slides, add a couple of pictures, maybe highlight some of the achievements during those, like within those slides as well. So some facts and figures as to how you've helped that firm or the job that you've done, and give like a presentation, attach it to your LinkedIn, and it's great. It's going to look great on your CV.
Yeah, I love LinkedIn. Yeah. Okay, Aaron's there's a question there. Can you see the question?
Yeah, perfect. So as a graduate of this year, how useful will this course be? As I'm looking to apply to a trainee accounting position, although I'm between two mindsets for career paths, whom will be happy for me to continue as CPD, as I have many exemptions as a cut. So I just need to read this again because it's actually quite difficult to read out loud.
Yeah.
Which course is it, sorry? The student scheme, or I believe you mentioned the student scheme. So the student scheme. So the student scheme includes the CFAB modules for you to complete. If you are eligible for CPD, so that's credit for prior learning, then you obviously don't need to do it again if you have that credit for prior learning. However, you can benefit from the other tools within the student scheme. So like I mentioned, it might be IT skills. You could do cloud accounting, so Xero. You could do the Microsoft Excel training package and get a certificate in that as well. So it's not just credit, it's not just CFAB. You can do other activities and gain different certificates within the student scheme as well. Oh, sorry, I just read that you've got lots of current certificates in IT, team working, etc. Well, I mean, if you feel like you've got everything that's needed, you may not need to sign up for it. I mean, completely down to you. But like I said, it's a very small investment, and in return, you'll get different job opportunities alerted to you. So you'll be the first to know about different jobs. You might be able to upload your CV, or you will be able to upload your CV onto the training vacancies website as well, for instance. So when you do get job opportunities posted through the student scheme, once you're on training vacancies, you could always put your CV there, and employers could also find you as well. How different is it to Xero and Sage? In terms of comparing the two, I'm not too sure what's offered in Sage, so I won't be able to give you an answer on that, unfortunately.
I suppose is Aaron, is Sage a cloud package as well, or is because Xero is a cloud accounting package, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was interested to find out more about the internship.
Yeah, the internship. So, like I said, I'd highly recommend for students to sign up for the newsletter to be first to know about it once it's launched. You'll be able to gain some sort of a virtual experience. When people think virtual, they might think, oh, it's not the proper thing or real work experience. But believe me, it is going to be basically what you would do in an office or in a work environment by just at your desk in your bedroom or in the kitchen, wherever it might be. So there'll be the opportunity for you to crack and solve different business problems, so real life examples, and this will be used in the real department of ICAEW. So we'll give you an example of what you should be working on, a project, and you'll be able to get cracking with that business case. There'll be different activities for you to carry out. So commercial awareness, business games. So it's going to be fun, interactive. You'll be learning a lot and gaining that experience. It's a paid work experience as well. However, like I said, more details will follow once it's launched, and you'll be able to hear about it once you sign up to the newsletter.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some great examples of online internships, which I think is one of the upsides of what's kind of happening at the moment. One of the very few upsides. So Bright Network announced about 3 weeks ago. I don't know if the students have seen that one, the Bright Network online. And like you said, they were giving people business problems and then getting feedback. Yeah. So that was great. Yeah.
I know PwC have just recently launched a work experience for school students, so for school leavers, but they might have something for graduates. I'm not too sure yet off the top of my head. Yeah. So it's worth doing a bit of research. I believe KPMG might be doing one as well. So it's worth doing a bit of research. And the websites I just showed you, so training vacancies or the Gap web one, for instance, there's some good starting places for you to explore graduate jobs, but also virtual work experiences.
Yeah. So applying for job opportunities that Aaron's talking about there, yeah. Yeah.
Perfect, brilliant.
Thanks, Aaron. I think we might have had another person join, so we're just running in now to the Q&A session. So Akin's agreed to kind of stay on and do a Q&A generally about accounting and finance careers at the moment. So welcome to anybody who has just joined us for this section of the session. I'd like to start us off, Akin, in terms of this section by asking if you can give a bit of a kind of an overview of what recruitment is like at the moment and how it's been affected, and do you have any thoughts going forward about what will happen in terms of the number of trainee vacancies?
So before we were in the situation we're in at the moment, business, finance, accounting was the field which had the most job opportunities for graduates compared to any other sector. So students were fortunate in that sense because there were loads of different job opportunities, because there are over 50 different types of jobs you could do in this profession. So, now that we're in the situation we're in, employers, of course, are transitioning to virtual, not just with the workload, but also in terms of the recruitment process. So even if you don't see many jobs listed at the moment, that's maybe because they're transitioning that recruitment process into online, which isn't done overnight. So there are currently jobs available. I believe I shared a few examples with Fran a few weeks ago. So keep your eyes peeled on these types of websites, because chartered accountancy isn't a profession which will die, if you like, in that sense, which is what you hear sometimes from students, especially with how computers and technology is becoming even more bigger now. And with the current situation we're in now, humans will have to use these technologies and computers to analyze these data and make recommendations, and those soft skills to transfer that message across to managers, to clients. So we need humans, if you like, more than ever. So in terms of jobs, there are still job opportunities out there. It may look like it's decreased at the moment, but like I said, once the recruitment processes are in place from employers, they'll be able to roll out their opportunities in the near future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think, like you say, it's been tricky, hasn't it, moving things to things like online assessment centres, so that takes a while for that to happen. So anecdotally, kind of people are saying that maybe smaller firms might be harder hit than the larger firms. We had an interesting webinar with EY, and what they were saying was actually they had more vacancies because they're anticipating acquisitions, mergers, companies in administration that will create more opportunities, not less.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I shared with you recently as well, I believe it was one of the big four, maybe it was EY. They had 7 job opportunities for graduates just a couple of weeks ago in their Leeds office. So having 7 in the situation we're in now is quite a big figure for one office. So, like you said, we are transitioning into different, chartered accountants will be doing different jobs, if you like, in a way, to work with this technology. And also, like you said, mergers and acquisitions, etc. There's a lot of different shifts going on within the industry at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the actual cycle of applications, because as you say, normally to have job opportunities available at this stage is pretty unusual, isn't it? Normally, most recruitments happened
especially
and finished.
Over the summer. Yeah. Over the summer, yeah.
And we'd be kind of gearing up for starting again in September, October, that cycle. So do you think things will change in that respect, Akin?
Yeah, I think employers are pretty flexible. I mean, from the job descriptions I've been looking at and what I've heard, there's no, 1st of September is a start date. I mean, it's kind of changed a little bit as well. So it really depends on it's really flexible at the moment in terms of when the jobs will be starting. So I'm not too sure, traditionally we would have the cycle starting September, October. Going forward, I mean, I'm not too sure what the pattern will be at the moment. So it's always good just to sign up to these newsletters and keep an eye out on different job boards because, like I said, one of the big four firms have 7 job opportunities all of a sudden, whereas that time of the year, they would never have probably had that. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to predict the pattern at the moment. However, it's good to just keep your ears peeled.
Yeah. And in terms of, I was thinking about when you were talking about interview skills earlier on, and that thing about always telling the truth on CVs and how you can get caught out. So that there's a kind of interesting thing about competence-based interviews as opposed to strengths-based. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what you feel about that, but employers often say they're shifting more towards strengths-based recruitment because almost like if you ask somebody, what's a good day at work for you, your face never lies. And so, you can get people who want to work to their strengths. And so I don't know if you found that in terms of interviews, more strengths-based and less competency-based, or are they still used?
No, that's a really good point because employers at the end of the day, they don't want to catch you out. They're not trying to encourage you to fail in these processes because of the time and effort and also investment gone into this. So they're trying to help you in that sense. So by asking these kind of questions, finding a little bit more about yourself, you as an individual, they'll be able to see if you're a right fit for the firm and whether that firm is a good fit for you as well. So open-ended questions, just to see where your strengths lie, what your thoughts are, a bit of a conversation as well. Towards the end of a recruitment process is something that's more than likely to be popular. In fact, within our skills sections, we're currently working on implementing a situational judgment test, if you like, just to see what you would do in a certain scenario as a student. And we're looking to implement this within our employability skills. So rather than doing a skills audit, you would be asked these kind of questions going forward. So even ICAEW student recruitment team, we're trying to go towards that style as well, just to get to know you a bit better.
Yeah, sure. And you also mentioned about commercial awareness. What would you say to students in terms of developing that commercial awareness?
So commercial awareness, for those students whose live at the moment or watching later on when post-record. Commercial awareness is basically having a good business understanding of what's happening in business. So especially with what's happening now, there are so many different firms which are shutting down. I think it was Boeing yesterday that mentioned they're closing lots of job opportunities. But how does this affect the industry, the economy, these job losses? How does it affect people psychologically? What impact will it have down the chain, if you like? So what is the confidence in consumer spending? How will that affect other retailers? What will our high streets look like? So that was also a problem in the past with high streets becoming less favourable to consumers. And now that most of these big names will not be reopening in the future, what will happen to these high streets? So having a good understanding as to what commercial awareness is, and reading one article and reading another article about it, and just keep finding out different sources about this topic will give you an idea of different perspectives, and ultimately you'll be able to give your own opinion in an interview with the person looking to hire you, recruit you, sorry. And you'll basically showcase your understanding of the business world and how the firm you're applying for has different impacts down different chains.
Mm-hmm. At least with the pandemic, we've got different things to talk about in interviews as opposed to Brexit, haven't we? Everybody preparing what's your opinion on Brexit,
Yeah, I mean, something which we're all talking about the past 3 months, and definitely looks like something we'll be talking about for the next couple of years for sure.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So have any of our students that are still on with us got any questions that they'd like to ask Akin? I suppose the other really important thing is you mentioned about tailoring applications, and that involves researching employers. So what's your kind of tips on finding out more about an employer that you're going to apply to?
Well, I mean, it depends on, it can depend on geography. So first of all, if you want to work somewhere near home, that's a really good way to filter what firms to apply for. Because if it's a big firm, they're more than likely to have an office or an opportunity near where you live. If it's a smaller firm, then it might be the local ones in your area. If it's about the salary, then you might wish to have a look on the job description, see if it talks about job salaries, if that's what makes you motivated, the money aspect, then that might be a way to filter it. If it's about the culture, like I mentioned, it might be the size of the team you'll be working in. So if it's a smaller firm, you'll be able to do different types of roles and have a good understanding as to what the business is like. Whereas in a bigger firm, in a big four firm, for instance, you might only be in audit, you might only be in tax, so you might not be able to venture out and do different roles. So there's different ways of filtering it depending on what you're interested in. Like I said, if it's money that motivates you, have a look at the salary. If it's location, that might be something you might wish to take into consideration. One thing I heard from a student was actually, he downloaded the top 100 firms in the UK, and then he literally just started off from the top firm, crossed it out, applied for that, second firm, crossed it out, applied for that. So if your only filter is, yes, I want to go into accounting, that might be another way of applying for jobs, just so that you can track where you applied and whether it's worth your time.
Yeah, but like you said, there's 50 different job areas, isn't there? So it's a massive field, and don't dismiss the smaller accounting practices, and also the in-house stuff in banks, marketing firms, retailers. It's important to think about all the opportunities.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there, because at the end of the day, there are lots of different job opportunities, and what you start with doesn't mean that's what you'll be going and doing the rest of your life. You might start with an audit at the beginning, but then you might go into something else later on down your career that you're more interested in. And like I said, chartered accountants can work in loads of different sectors, so sports, media, fashion, and you might do a job role within those companies that you're interested in. So I would recommend finding an opportunity that you're interested in and you would like to complete the qualification, the ACA, for the next 3 years after you've graduated. And once you've graduated, once you've qualified, you have the ACA under your belt, and you can literally go, anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so, we've had Morrison's finance scheme. They've come to talk to students. We've had Two Sisters Food Group, one of the biggest chicken manufacturing companies, but people haven't heard of them because they're kind of behind the scenes, aren't they? But as it might not be the most kind of glamorous on the outside, but actually they provide you with you're going to get the qualification, you're going to become a professional accountant. So it's really important not to kind of dismiss all the opportunities. Yeah,
100%. As long as you ask yourself those 3 questions I mentioned at the start: can you do the job, will you do the job, and will you fit in? Ask yourself those 3 questions and start applying after answering those. If you feel like it ticks all the boxes, then that might be worthwhile. But just because no one's heard of it or you've never heard of it, like the student, it doesn't mean it's a bad place or the ACA isn't as highly regarded. The ACA qualification is equivalent no matter where you train. So once you've qualified, there's no reason as to why you can't either stay at that firm or company or go on to somewhere else.
Is it unusual, or is it fairly common that people, let's say you did go to Morrison's finance scheme and then 3 or 4 years post qualifying, or you got some experience under your belt, and then you could apply for one of the big 4 if that was what your goal was ultimately?
At the end of the day, if it is your goal to work for a big 4 firm, there's no reason as to why you can't apply after the 3 years and once you've qualified. Some people start off the other way around, so you might be in the big 4 and then think, I'm doing too much traveling, I'd like to be somewhere a bit more, home based, and then move on to somewhere else, a local firm, for instance. That might be something you might be interested in. So, like I said, it's really down to your own character and what you want to do. Like I said, the ACA is equivalent no matter where you train. But as long as you get some sort of experience, get something out of it, and you enjoy it, then you can also work on that later on.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Akin. Have our students got any questions? Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Akin?
Just good luck, really, in your applications. If you do need any support, like I said, Fran and I, we're both here to help you find these opportunities and help you with that recruitment process. So let Fran know, or just drop me an email, which Fran probably would be able to share. So yeah, no problem at all.
I'll share the workbook, and apologies for not being able. It's just so slow, the system. I don't know what's kind of going on. But thank you to our students for joining us. So we're going to sign off now, unless I see a question appear in the chat box. I can't see anything at the moment. But thanks very much for joining us today and for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
And it's been great to chat to you and catch up.
Perfect. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
See you later.